Pope Francis has died. That's come from the Vatican. We just have that breaking news. Pope Francis has died. That's coming to us from the Vatican via the AFP news agency. We don't have any more details than that. This just reaching us here at BBC News in the last few minutes that Pope Francis has died. That confirmation coming through from the Vatican and coming to us via the AFP news agency. My colleague Rich Preston is with me here. Rich, just bring us up to date.
Well, Lewis, as you say, this is just come into us in the last few moments. A statement issued by Cardinal Farrell announcing with sorrow the death of Pope Francis with these words: "Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis at 7:35 this morning. The Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and his church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage and universal love, especially in favour of the poorest and most marginalised." Now, the statement goes on to say, "With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite merciful love of the one and true God." So that statement coming to us from the Vatican. Now, of course, Pope Francis, as many people will be aware, recently spent a considerable time in hospital with double pneumonia, including during that period being on oxygen for extended periods of time. There was a lot of concern about the Pope's health then, of course. He was released from hospital relatively recently. He did not take part in the Easter celebrations yesterday. He was there, he wrote the sermon, but he didn't give the sermon himself. We did see the Pope touring around in the Pope Mobile, seeing crowds, greeting people in St. Peter's Square. And now, Lewis, this morning, this news that Pope Francis has died at the age of 88.
Oh, this is bad news. Mulovon Easter. Okay. Pope Francis was born as George Mario Bergoglio on 17th December 1936. He was the eldest of 5 children from Mario Joseph Bergoglio and Regina Maria Sivori. Mario Bergoglio was an Italian immigrant accountant. Regina Sivori was a housewife born in Buenos Aires to a family of northern Italian origin. Oh, it's bad news, bro. This is bad news.
Rich, thank you very much for that. We are getting more details in here and I'll let you just get across those. If you are just joining us, just want to repeat that news that we've just had in the last few minutes, the death of Pope Francis. A statement from the Vatican reads, "With deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis at 7:35 this morning. The Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and his church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage and universal love, especially in favour of the poorest and most marginalised." So that news coming after the illness that we have been, of course, covering over the last few weeks here on BBC News, and his health has been watched, of course, not just at the Vatican there, but right around the world. His health seemed to be improving because we did have those recent appearances just in the last couple of days, all unexpected. There was never any promise of specific appearances that he would make, but then he has, over the last few days over this crucial Easter period, of course, for Catholics and Christians, has been making a couple of unannounced, unscheduled appearances. But the underlying nature of his health was always underlined. Serious condition with double pneumonia, of course, and extensive hospital treatment. And then just in the last few minutes, that news coming to us in a statement from the Vatican. And just to repeat that statement, a short while ago, His Eminence Cardinal Farrell announced with sorrow the death of Pope Francis with these words, quote, "Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis. At 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and his Church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage and universal love, especially in favour of the poorest and most marginalised. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite merciful love of the one and true God." My colleague Rich Preston is with me here. Rich, we have been getting, as I mentioned, those regular updates about his health over the last few weeks.
Yes, that's right. And as you were saying, Lewis, he spent a considerable amount of time in hospital with double pneumonia. He was 88 years old, so there was concern about his time in hospital. Lots of people closely watching the news while he was in the hospital's care there. But he was released not that long ago, with doctors happy for him to return to light duties, and the Vatican stressed at the time it would be light duties that he would be engaging with. But right up to the wire, he was meeting with J.D. Vance recently. He was present at Easter celebrations just yesterday in Vatican City, and then this news this morning announcing his death at 7:30 in the morning, local time, 7:35 this morning, according to the statement. Now, as I said, the Pope Francis was 88. He was the first Latin American leader of the Roman Catholic Church. And throughout his time, both as a priest and latterly as Pope, he saw himself as one of the people. He said, "My people are poor, and I am one of them." He was born in Buenos Aires in 1936 and was ordained as a priest in 1969 before becoming the provincial of the Jesuits in Argentina in 1973. And then it was in 2013 he was elected as Supreme Pontiff. And as I said, throughout his time, Lewis very much saw himself as one of the people, working to help, in particular, poorer people and those who needed the church.
Sorry for that. Rest in peace, Pope Francis. Now, news everywhere. Everyone's talking about the death of Pope Francis. Pope Francis dead. Pope Francis's final words, how pneumonia-stricken 88-year-old pontiff was heavily supported by aides for a last act of devotion for Easter. Pope Francis wished a happy Easter to everyone in his final poignant act of devotion that saw him heavily supported by his ideas. Francis, who died at age of 88, delighted the crowd of 35,000 faithful at the Vatican on Easter Sunday with an appearance on the balcony at St. Peter's Basilica. But the pontiff, appealing weary and fatigued, needed help from his aides while he sat on the balcony and watched as Archbishop Diego read his Easter blessing to the large crowd. Around the world, everyone is saddened by his death of Pope Francis. Bobby Wine, I join the world to mourning the Holy Father, Pope Francis, who passed away this morning. May the reforms he championed continue making the world a better place. The world must be a better place for everyone. Rest in peace, Pope Francis. We'll always remember you. We'll always remember your guidance, your teaching. Rest in peace, Pope Francis.